Malole Soifua Luisa Wall.
Talofa lava, Mr Speaker, and thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to this budget debate and analysis. So I've got a question for the House. How many children will be lifted out of poverty as a result of last week's budget? How many children will be lifted out of poverty as a result of last week's budget? They don't know. Thank you, Grant Robertson. They don't know. They considered that this morning on national radio. This government do not know how many children will be lifted out of poverty as a result of last week's budget. So beneficiary families are supposed to be grateful because beneficiary families are going to get $25 from the 1st of April 2016. Why? Because Prime Minister John Key said, and I quote, "Supporting children in hardship is a focus of the budget." That was the title of his press release. It's such a focus, ladies and gentlemen, that beneficiary families only have to wait 307 days to get the $25 a week. 307 days. So that's their definition, the National Party's definition of compassionate conservatism. You, beneficiary families and your children are such a priority, such a focus, that you only have to wait 307 days. So what is so compassionate about having to wait 307 days? Well, the government have tried to claim this is the first increase since 1972, forgetting that they, that is Ruth Richardson and Jenny Shipley, where has he gone? Actually, in the 1990s, cut benefits. So the national government in the 1990s cut benefits, and Chris Bishop is proud of that fact. And so how much are those cuts worth today? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's $43 worth of benefit cuts today. So in fact, giving them $25, you've actually ripped them off $18. That's how much this government wants to address poverty and address the hardship in beneficiary families. I know, and now I want to focus on another aspect of this government's compassionate conservatism, and it's actually related to their KiwiSaver Act. And I'm going to do a little bit of facts and figures, and some people here on the weekend would have heard this, but of the 4.471 million New Zealanders, 52%, 2.35 million people, have actually enrolled in KiwiSaver. And of those, 350,000 children and young people have been enrolled. So congratulations to the parents out there for enrolling their children in KiwiSaver and committing them to a life of saving so that one day they might be able to own a home, one day they might be able to get an education, and one day, when they are 65 plus, they will be able to have a great retirement, because actually that's what it's all about. We want to prepare people for the future. So of the 2.121 million people who are not enrolled, of these, about 340,000 have opted out. So they've made an informed decision, Mr Speaker, not to be involved in KiwiSaver. So of the 1.7 million, or 40% of New Zealanders who now are not entitled to the $1,000 KiwiSaver kickstart to your fundraising, to your retirement scheme, who are they? Because I'm really interested to know who the 40% of New Zealanders are who are missing out. Okay, I'm going to focus on a couple of cohorts. One, those are the people who earn under $30,000 actually, Mr Speaker. They're missing out on this KiwiSaver scheme. And these are people who I would classify as living in hardship. So these are those families that John Key said that his government is focusing on. So all those families are going to miss out. Who else is affected? Well, actually, according to Inland Revenue, in their February 2015 Who is Enrolling in KiwiSaver report, based on the just under 40% of those who are automatically enrolled, and who is automatically enrolled or was automatically enrolled in KiwiSaver. So you had to be aged between 18 and 64 years. It had to be a new job with a new employer, and you're either in full-time or permanent part-time work, and you could have been an agricultural worker in the job for more than 3 months. So you're part of the 40% of New Zealanders that used to be automatically enrolled into KiwiSaver. So what do you look like? What's the profile of this cohort of New Zealander? Okay, they were single and aged between 18 and 24. They're Māori and Pacific Islander. They're people who are secondary school educated. They're working in lower white-collar positions. They're working in retail trade and the accommodation industry. And they're earning $30,000, between $30 and $50 actually, in employment income. So these are the people that, based on the government's budget and their piece of legislation, the KiwiSaver Act, that now miss out on KiwiSaver. I actually would now like to quote from a couple of sources. The first source is the Child Poverty Action Group. And they had a breakfast, both here and in Wellington, and their 2015 budget analysis, and I quote, "We know parents prioritise their children, and this extra money will be spent to meet their needs." This is the $25 that this government is so kindly giving them in 307 days. It is a shame that this promise will not be delivered until April next year. It is also a shame that the thresholds for access to accommodation supplement, income-related rents and supplementary assistance have not been adjusted. This means that much of the increase in incomes will be instantly eroded. So the net effect of the government's prioritisation of families and children in hardship, based on that analysis, it's nil. It's zip, it's nothing. And so thank you, National Government, for prioritising families and children in hardship. You care so much about them, you only have to wait 307 days. I'd also like to quote from Dita DeBona, who wrote an excellent article in the Herald today. And I quote, "In the UK, there is a movement called the Good Right Project, which wants non-conservatives to appreciate the right's moral strengths and for conservatives to deepen their belief in social justice, a conservatism that is more compassionate and visionary." But to be visionary, you'd have to concede there are problems that need fixing, and an even better country that could be built. By that measure, our lot would fall at the first hurdle. So there's an assessment from Dita DeBona about this government's, thank you, Deboni, for this government's commitment to, as John Key said, in his press release, supporting children in hardship, which is a big focus of this government. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that in the final analysis, what this government will be seen as is a government that takes from the poor to give to the poor. And actually, they're the complete opposite of Robin Hood. I actually think it's the Sheriff of Nottingham budget, because this government has deceived everybody into thinking that they are compassionate and that they actually care. But the reality of the situation is that this government hasn't prioritised children in poverty. Otherwise, they would have been able to answer this question. How many children will be lifted out of poverty as a result of last week's budget? And actually, this will be the legacy, the defining legacy of this government, a growing inequality, an entrenchment of inequality, and actually a lack of compassion and a lack of care and consideration for those most in need. Excuse me, I'm happy in the Labour Party, very proud to be the MP for Manurewa, who's advocating for the needs and aspirations of my community. I do. Education is a pathway out of poverty, and that would be a focus for our government if we were in power. It would also be assisting and helping those most in need. And so I think what people have seen from the analysis that I've shared this afternoon is that this government is incredibly deceptive. This government likes the platitudes about caring for families in hardship, that they actually want to address child poverty, but at the end of the day, look at the actions. If families have to wait 307 days to get $25 because you want to prioritise those in hardship and children living in poverty, then you've failed miserably. Kia ora.
Marololei, Soifua, Paul Foster-Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, it's actually a pleasure to follow